You mentioned a lot there, and it's very damning, the state of women's human rights at the moment in the UK. You mentioned the proposed Human Rights Act reforms, and you also mentioned a bit of the work that WRC is doing around research into funding into the sector. Could you just explain a bit more about the work that WRC has done around challenging those in power currently and building solidarity within the sector and more broadly around that?
So we've held a consultation on the Human Rights Act, and we drafted a response, and we also provided a template for other organisations to respond, and also we will amplify the voices of others, such as the British Institute of Human Rights. We also support other work from EVOR and other women's organisations in the sector in their work addressing issues around the Domestic Abuse Act and also the Nationality and Borders Bill. And so in that way, we contribute to other organisations' work and support that, as well as bringing together organisations ourselves. So in London, we've got the London Violence Against Women and Girls Consortium of 28 organisations, which now is able to kind of face and influence the Mayor's office around what they're doing. And again, provides that collective voice. We've been doing work in Manchester, for example, around African women's organisations, financial inclusion, and also we lead the network for Black women leaders. That's just some of the work we do. Obviously, CEDAW has for 20 years been a key part of our work. And at the moment, I think CEDAW is going to become more important because potentially it could become one of the last tools that is available to us if the Human Rights Act is watered down. And of course, the departure from Europe, which has left European directives not available to us for women's rights, then CEDAW becomes more important. And as I say, it's one of the best kept secrets. And so it's really important that we're able to promote and raise awareness of CEDAW. And it also helps, again, to build that solidarity and collective action. It's a good vehicle for not only holding the government to account on their lack of progress on women's human rights, but also a vehicle to bring the sector together to speak with one voice on that. So that's just some of the things that we're doing. And also we will be continuing the work on the abysmal funding into our sector as well, because the sector needs money to continue its work. And that's one way of undermining progress on women's rights, is to starve us of resources or to fund generic organisations to provide services to women who do not do the wider work on social change.
And sort of building on what you talked about there, especially around CEDAW, and I really like the bit at the end around the importance of building social change. Finally, what more do you think the sector should be doing now in light of everything we've talked about here and the attitude of the government currently?
I think it's, to be honest, it's really a difficult environment for women's organisations. What we know from across our membership is that they are struggling to hold on themselves. They've got more women in need coming to their services and often less money. And so it's quite difficult for us to make demands on organisations, but I do think there's a role for us and other umbrella organisations and infrastructure organisations to really take up this mantle about what we can do together to support and provide a voice and amplify the voice of the women's organisations who are massively overstretched. You know, we've got so many issues in the way that we're funded, the lack of funding, but also short-term funding, lack of core funding, recommissioning of services that can close organisations at the drop of a hat. And so I think that it's about what we as second tiers can do together to raise the concerns of our shared membership. And I'm really pleased that the second tier umbrella bodies of the women's sector, we are meeting regularly, we are talking about things, and we are making the space to think together, because the thing that has diminished in my 30 odd years of working in the sector is the time to think together strategically and to plan how we are going to respond to the attacks on us. So I think that that's a key thing for us to do.
There's definitely a lot of work that we need to be doing there. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Laura.